All right, welcome to course site Tuneups. We're going to talk about getting your course sites up and ready in Canvas for the first time that you'll be teaching either this summer, this fall, or next spring. So we're going to start by talking about how to build out a homepage for your course site. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can start chatting about that. So here is an example of a built out homepage. Just to give you a little refresher, we have a few templates you can choose from. This is a built out version of the default template that should be provisioned in all of your course sites. So just to give you the lay of the land here for where we're headed, and then we'll get into how I actually got to this point. So all of these templates are variations on the same theme, right? So we have a placeholder for an image or a welcome video, if you're so inclined. We have text here where you can put in just your course description from the syllabus. You can enter the meeting date and time and room number, link to your syllabus and course policies. Each instructor can fill out their basic info. You don't need to use all of this placeholder text. It's just there to give you ideas. And then we have built out a bunch of buttons that when you haven't fully built out your homepage, don't link anywhere. I'll show you how to make those links actually work. Sorry, let me grab somebody from the waiting room here. There we go. Excellent. Okay. So first of all, you may not want the homepage template that you see when you first log into your course site. That's fine. If you want to change it, you can just by clicking the Choose Homepage button over on the right. We're just using a regular Canvas page that we have named the homepage or selected to be the homepage rather. So that's all this is, very basic, but we can change that by clicking the Change button over here on the right. You may remember from a previous session that this shows all of the pages that you have in your Canvas course site. So it could be a large list depending on how many pages you have, but all of the homepage templates should be organized under H. It's all alphabetical, so you should be able to find them fairly easily. There are different layouts. Currently we have 1, 2, and 4. Eventually 3 will be in there as well. I know that's a little odd, but that's how that worked out. And layout 4 has a few different color options. Just because it says blue Boston Conservatory and red Berkeley doesn't mean that those are the only learning environments those should be used in. We just used those official branding colors. So if you're so inclined to make those choices based on the branded colors, that's available for you. I'm gonna use the same layout, but I'm gonna use the red one to start building out. So just to show you what I just did there, to make that my home page, I went over to the right, clicked the More button. That's those 3 vertical dots that you see all over the place in Canvas. And I selected it as the front page. Once it's the front page, by default, the way your courses are set up, it'll become your home page. And this is, aside from the color, what that homepage template looked like before I built it out the way I showed you earlier. So here's that placeholder for a welcome video or just an image, doesn't matter. And here's all of our sort of boilerplate content below. So to start editing our homepage, we just need to click the edit button up here in the top right. We'll sort of work our way from top to bottom. We won't go over absolutely everything in here, but just to give you enough to work with. I'm going to use these 8 dots over here in the bottom right of this editing window to click and drag to make this editing window a little bit bigger so I can deal with this a little more easily. And I'm also going to find a whole bunch of files that I built out for this course, so I can use them when I'm building this out. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is replace this placeholder with either a welcome video or some sort of image for my course site if I want to. Otherwise, if I don't want to use that at all, I can just click on it and press the delete button on my keyboard, which is the first step you would take to replace that image anyway. So here we are. Now I can add a new image or just leave it alone and not have one. I'm going to select the image button from my text editor toolbar just above. Looks like a little maybe canvas with a landscape on it. And I'm going to select upload image. I can drag and drop an image right into here. Can everybody see my Finder window? Just want to make sure. Okay, thank you. I can drag and drop an image right into this field from my Finder window, which I'll do here. And I have some options. I have alternative text. We'll talk about this a little bit more later. But basically, this is just text for a screen reader to read for any users that are using a screen reader. If the image contained knowledge that a student should have, you should put in alternative text to describe that image. This, nobody needs to know anything about this moon being shot in the face with a spaceship bullet. So I'm going to call this one a decorative image. So I don't have to put in the alternative text. And I'll click submit. And that will embed that image in its original size, which is far too large. So I can click on it and then select image options to resize it. So maybe I just want to use the percentages instead of the pixels. 100% looks way too big. What does 50% look like? That's a little bit better. That's acceptable. I could probably go smaller, but that's fine for now. Okay, so there's my image or my video. If I wanted to add a video, I could just use this upload media button here. Or even better, I could use Canvas Studio in this plugins menu over here, so it doesn't count against course storage. All right, next up, I want to add my course description. So I have my syllabus handy behind the scenes over here. So I can just copy and paste that into here. There's that. I can update the meeting date and time if I am so inclined. Add the room number. This is just basic text. I can copy and paste over that. I'm not going to show you how to link the syllabus and course policies here, but I'll show you how to update these buttons down here for the modules, and that's the same process you would use to update these buttons. I would likely recommend having a separate page for the syllabus and course policies just to link these things to them. And then you'd fill out your instructor information, email, office hours, whatever you want here. You could add things that we haven't listed, remove things that we have. That's up to you, just to give you a place to start with. That's why we entered these. Looks like I've already made some lovely edits to some of these buttons. Lesson 1 is not blah, 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 by the way. But to update these buttons, this is a two-step process. It doesn't matter the order you do these 2 steps in, but the 2 steps are change the names of all of these buttons so they reflect the actual modules or lessons or topics, however you refer to them in your course site. So lesson 2 name obviously isn't what you want students to click on to get to lesson 2. So I'll show you how to update that to reflect the name of the module. And so that's one of the steps we need to take here. The other step is to actually link this button to the real life module in our Canvas course. And let's start with that one first. Let's just link one of these buttons to an actual module that students will get to when they click on it. So to do this, the first thing you need to do is click anywhere in the text editor that is not a button, anywhere that's not one of these highlighted with a color links. So I'm just going to click over here where it says modules, since that's not a button. And then I'm going to click the down arrow next to this link button. If If you've been to any of our other sessions, you'll remember this is how we get to course links, which pulls out this side panel that allows us to link students to any of these types of things in our course site. So this is how I would link to specific pages for my syllabus and course policies. And this is how I'm going to link these buttons to specific modules like I have down here. So I have a welcome module. To link the welcome module to this button or the button to the welcome module, I just want to highlight the whole button. I can do that by triple clicking, or I can just drag to highlight it. Once the whole button is highlighted, I just click on the module I want to link to. Now that's the welcome module. Welcome to the course is not the name of the module. So how do I change the name? Well, I just click on the link and then I click link options. And I can change this to whatever I want. I can, whoops, don't do that though. I can get rid of the number. And I can get rid of the rest of the text. And if all of the text was different in general, I could just type something else out and click done. And it automatically updates the name for me and updates the button. So you'll notice that those course links, the module links, all went away when I updated the name. I would recommend doing one of these steps entirely first. So update all of the links to the modules first, maybe, and then go back and update all of the names to the modules second. That way you don't have to keep jumping back and forth between panels here. So I would go course link, highlight lesson 1, link to lesson 1, highlight lesson 2, link to lesson 2, highlight lesson 3, link to lesson 3. And then after that, I would go back and I would click link options on all of these and update the names. This is admittedly a little bit of work. It's a little bit of effort. Once you do this, however, when you import from this course to any future courses, all of these links will automatically update to be the appropriate modules going forward. So as long as you're not making lots of updates to your modules, all of these links are going to be just fine going forward. And making minor edits isn't that big of a deal. If you need to remove any of these buttons, if you have fewer modules or topics, then we have buttons listed here. Just highlight it, click delete. Likewise, if you need more, you can just highlight one, press Command C on your keyboard to copy it, press return on your keyboard to get down to a new line, and then paste it in. Change the name and the link there, and you have your extra button. If you run into any trouble with any of these buttons, let us know. We can help you out with them. But that's how you update your course homepage. Let's go ahead and click save. We can see what this looks like. Similar to the other one, not as many things. I didn't update all of the names here, but now the buttons that I actually updated will actually link to the places in my course site I wanted them to link to. So if I want to go to lesson 2, now this link takes me right to lesson 2. It's still on the modules page, so I can still see all of my modules, but it dropped me down to lesson 2 rather than making my students scroll past welcome, lesson 1, and then, oh, there's lesson 2. So that's why we recommend that. Yeah, Arlene, go ahead.
Can you show us how to do it for the get the link for the office hours? Because I tried to do it and the link, I can't update the link that for them to, you know, for the students to click on for office hours.
So is it just a Zoom link that you're using?
Yeah, I mean, I tried copying from my OL page.
Yeah, so this actually isn't quite a link yet. So you would just highlight it and you would click the link button.
Okay.
Select external link.
Okay.
And then you could change the text of it. So you could say office hours,
Okay.
Zoom link, or whatever you want, and then just paste in your Zoom link there.
Okay.
And click done.
That I can take from my OL page.
If you did not use the built-in Zoom activity in OL, then you could take it from there. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. All right, so that's your homepage. That has nothing to do with your migrated content. Let's switch gears and talk about your migrated content. First, we're just going to talk about resources, not talking about assignments or quizzes or anything quite yet. But we're going to start at sort of like a higher level, organizationally, what you might want to be on the lookout, and then drill our way down a little bit deeper from there. So we're starting out on the modules page here. This isn't actually a course that was migrated from OL. I've replicated some of the things that will happen most frequently. We won't capture all of the things that will happen upon migration, but I'll show you a place that has a more comprehensive list of things to look out for. But this will be the greatest hits, if you will. So one thing that's very important to remember at the high level about migrating from OL to Canvas is while there are label resources in OL, labels are the things that allow us to display text and images directly on the course homepage rather than being tucked away inside of a page or an assignment. So we have labels in OL that allow us to do that. In Canvas, we do not. So if it was a label in OL, if it displayed text or images, whatever, directly on the course homepage, it'll be turned into a page resource in Canvas. So all the content will still be there. It just won't be displayed directly on the course homepage. In many cases, this will be just fine. Maybe you were using your labels to just display an outline of what you were going to cover for the week or for that topic, or the learning goals for that topic. But sometimes you will need to pay attention to that content. So one of the things that is a surefire way to remember you'll have to take a look at this is if you see a page near the top of your module in Canvas that says section summary. That's shorthand for this is definitely a label. Not all labels will have that, but if it's at the top of your module, sometimes it will. So this lesson doesn't have a name currently. It's just lesson 1. And then we see lesson 1 section summary. So let's click into this to see what we have here. All right. So this was definitely a label in OL that was right on the course homepage. So just imagine we saw lesson 1 at the top of the topic in OL. This was the name of it in the label just below. Approaching science fiction as a form of cultural critique. Then we had this nice eye-catching image right at the top. In OL, that would just be displayed right here. I wouldn't have to click on this page to go get to it. So why does this matter here? Well, it matters because students, when they're looking at lesson 1, won't see the name of it. They would have to go into this page to see the name of it. So that's recommendation number 1 here, is come in here, grab the name of the lesson, click the More button next to the name of the lesson, and click Edit. And you could leave lesson 1 here and just paste in the name of the lesson and update the module. Now it has the name of the module, therefore. But there was also that image. So what do we think we might want to do with that image? Well, if we want to continue to use it, we would probably want to put that in a separate page or combine it with another page. Otherwise, a student will just be brought to this page, see the title of the lesson, and see this image that doesn't have a whole lot of context. So maybe what we want to do instead is add it to the lesson 1 introduction that we have built out here. So we have some text. This seems like a good place to add that image though. So let's just pop it in above. You can either re-upload it or you can grab it from course images. So if you click the down arrow next to the image button, you could re-upload it, or since it's already in here, you could find it in course images. I think it's actually this one, but it looks like it's broken, so I'll just re-upload it. And we can find that on our desktop. Toss that in there. This one's decorative too. Click submit. It's way too big again. Let's make that. Oh, let's see what 25, whoops, 25% looks like. That's a little closer. We could go smaller, but that's fine. All right, perfect. We're happy with that. We can go back to our modules. And now that we've taken the name out of this section summary and put it in the title of this lesson or module, and we've moved that image into the lesson 1 introduction, we actually don't need this lesson 1 section summary anymore. So we can just remove it from the outline for now. This page with those two pieces, the piece of text and the image, will still be in your Canvas course site under pages. So if you want to fully delete it, you would need to go there to get rid of it, but you can just remove it from modules for now by clicking that button and confirming. All right. So that's basically the gist of what you're going to be looking for with labels. Do you need to move things around? Do you need to pull content out of it and put it somewhere else? So for that, if you're using labels in OL, maybe you have your OL course homepage open and your Canvas course homepage open, so you can quickly tell where your labels went to in Canvas and go through and make those decisions as you go. You may not need to do anything, but it's definitely worth taking a look at. Next thing you might consider doing is in OL, it works perfectly fine when you have a list of files, like these are all just PDFs on your course homepage like this. In Canvas, it might, but it also might not. So the way students navigate through your Canvas course sites, like we've gone over before, is once they're inside a resource, they're just going to click these next and previous buttons. And here they are interacting with file now, but they don't have a whole lot of context for why they're interacting with this file at this point. It's just the file itself. And if it weren't a PDF, if it were something else that required them to download it, they would have to download it to figure out what it is. So one of the recommendations you might consider, you don't have to, is taking these sort of disparate resources, ones that are related to each other, and just putting them inside of a page. So the way you would do that is you would create a new page, click the plus icon to the right, the module, select page from the list, highlight create page. We can call this lesson 1 additional resources, for lack of a better title currently. Let's just move that to where it should be and click on it to start editing it. Click the edit button in the top right. And now we know all of those files already exist in our Canvas course site. We don't need to re-upload them. We can just add them here. But what about giving them some context? So we could say something like, please review this score because you will be doing whatever with it for this upcoming assignment, whatever context you need. And then click the down arrow next to documents, click course documents, and you can find that resource and link your students to it here. So that it has the additional benefit of being able to talk about the resource, giving some context for that resource to your students before they click on it and start interacting with it, rather than clicking the next button and automatically being interacting with it without a whole lot of context. And you could do that for the rest of these resources as well. So you could type out what you need to below here and add them in that way. So now when you're clicking through next, you get the idea. But you would be brought to this page that houses all of those resources like this with context for your students, rather than like this with no context. It's not required, just a tip for how you might reorganize things navigationally for your students in ways that make more sense for Canvas versus OL. The great thing about most of your resources in Canvas is that they'll probably come over just fine. Other things you'll want to double check. You'll want to look for references to ol.berkeley.edu or links directly to ol.berkeley.edu. Obviously, that wouldn't work anymore, and update those. So if you say, please upload your assignment by Friday on OL, maybe you want to change that to Canvas. And obviously, you'll have to look for semester-specific references in text that you've written before, like welcome to summer, whatever. Maybe you need to update that to summer 2023 or fall 2023, something like that. And the last thing you should want to take a look at is if you are using any media like audio or video or images directly within other resources. So if you have videos inside of pages or audio that you're hoping students can play back in the learning management system, just go take a look, make sure everything came over properly. And if you see any issues, you can always reach out for help. But if something didn't migrate over properly, you may just need to re-upload it or re-embed it. All right, so that was resources. Let's talk a little bit about activities and some common things to look out for with the migration of those. So we'll start with an assignment and then we'll talk about a quiz. So everything should be here. Go find an assignment that you want to double check, click on the assignment. And then in the description, all you're really going to be looking for are references to OL, semester specific references. And if you need to reformat something, the text for whatever reason, you can do that here. If you're using rubrics for your assignments in OL, they should have imported properly. They should be attached properly to your assignments, and they should be set up properly. But I want you to double check something anyway, just in case it's not set up this way. It should be, but just in case it's not, it'll save you a little bit of confusion and headache later if you just take a second to click this pencil icon in the top right of your rubric that's attached to your assignment here. So when you do that, you'll see this list of options below. And the one I want you to make sure is enabled, is checked, is the use this rubric for assignment grading box. Just check that box if it's not already checked. It should be, but just make sure and double check. There, now we're happy with that. Let's go take a look at the rest of the settings for this assignment. We'll click the edit button up here in the top right. Good news is most things for assignments will come over the way you expect them to. You'll just want to probably double check the point values, make sure that the assignment group, which is Canvas's term for gradebook category, is set appropriately, and that everything for your submission types, all of the options you want students to have available to them to submit are set up properly. Make sure your submission attempts are set up properly. If it's a group assignment, you also have the option to turn it into a peer review assignment. And down here, you can change any dates or availability settings that you need to as well. That's something you would have had to do anyway from semester to semester, but this is where you would do it in Canvas, and you can also differentiate those dates by student as well. So everybody gets this date, but if you click the add button, you can select a different date for a different student. I'm going to show you a different way to update all of your assignment grades that might be a little bit easier for you to do kind of in bulk. But if you want to update it this way, that is totally fine. All right, the way I would update those dates in bulk is under the assignments page over here on the left. You'll remember this is where we set up our grade book and make sure all of our categories total up to 100 assignment groups in Canvas. But also on the assignments page, you can click this More button up in the very top right, and select Edit Assignment Dates. This might be how you want to update your dates every semester going forward. But it may just be the way you want to do it for an upcoming semester right now anyway. So click Edit Dates, and then you'll see all of your assignments. You can see when they're due, what their availability dates are, and you can update them directly by clicking on the calendar button. You can also batch edit all of these. So you could select a few, or you could select all of them, and then select the batch edit button up here in the top right. And you can say, shift the dates, move them all forward by X number of days, or remove all of the dates and or the availability dates. You have a little bit of granularity there. So if I do this by 7 days, just automatically updated all of these. That may not get you the whole way there, but it could get you pretty close if you know how many days forward you need to adjust all of that stuff. And then you can tweak the ones that are birthdays or holidays or whatever. All right, let's take a look at what you might want to be on the lookout for with quizzes. Before we get into this too terribly much, I want to share a link to a page on berkeley.edu. So let me pull up the chat here. That is a page that talks about the Canvas migration in a little bit more depth. Linked on that page in a couple of different places is something called an equivalencies chart. I'm going to show you what that chart looks like before we start talking about quizzes here. So this chart lists a bunch of activities, resources, and features that are available in OL. So these are all the names of the stuff in OL. So if you know that you want to go in and check on your quizzes, for instance, in Canvas, you can come here, click on quiz, learn a little bit about what's happening in the migration with them, and then see whatever considerations, if any, apply to this particular thing. With quizzes, there are some considerations to take a look at. So it'll tell you question types that come over from OL properly that should not need to be updated. These are all of those. Good news is that's quite a few, and it's definitely the most commonly used ones. Then there's a second category of questions down here, question types from OL that import but might need updating. These are far less used in most cases for most people. Some of the content will come over, usually just the prompt, and then the questions will need to be recreated, possibly turned into different questions, like drag and drop matching would have to be turned into a matching question. And then there's a shorter list of questions that don't have equivalents in Canvas at all and do not import. Mostly drag and drop and select missing words. These are very rarely used in OL for the most part. I would be surprised if many of you on this call use any of these. But this is just kind of a quick cheat sheet for you. So when you're looking at your quiz questions in Canvas, you know which ones you'll want to pay attention to. And you can go quickly find them in OL if you need to grab any content from them. But this page talks about all of the stuff, all of the things in OL, what their equivalents are in Canvas, and any things you might need to know about them for the migration. It's a lot. It's not meant to overwhelm you. Most of the stuff is going to be there just fine. We're talking about just the greatest hits today, so it should be okay. But double check your quizzes. So we'll click on our quiz here to take a look at it, and we'll click the edit button up in the top right. And the first thing we want to take a look at are the settings. Most of them are going to be fine. The settings that vary the most from OL to Canvas are the settings that control what students can see about their attempts and correct answers at what points in time. So there's a lot more options for this in OL. So just make sure that these options here, what students can see about their attempts and correct questions, are set up the way you would want them to be set up in Canvas. That's the main takeaway for your quiz settings here. Pay attention to this setting here, or set of settings here. And then if you need to update your questions or take a look at your questions, you'll take a look at the questions tab, the second one along the top. So at this point, I would probably have my quiz questions open in OL, and I would just take a look. If I see a list full of multiple choice questions in OL, all of my multiple choice questions are going to be fine here in Canvas. If I see any that are kind of more complicated, I'll want to take a closer look at them. This one I created deliberately. This used to be a drag and drop matching question in OL, where students just dragged a term onto a definition, and then they got awarded points based on that. There is no such question type in Canvas, but there is a matching question. So all I would do is turn this into a matching question and grab the terms and definitions from the existing question in OL to rebuild that question. So if you use quizzes, you'll have to take a look to make sure that your questions came over properly. You might need to rebuild some if you were using more advanced questions in OL, but we're here to help with this stuff. So if you need to do any of that, please reach out and we'll give you a hand. I'm not going to update this because I don't have the content quite yet. The last thing you want to take a look at with your quizzes, and this is sort of separate from whether the question comes over properly or not, is if you're using any media inside of your quiz questions, you'll just want to go make sure that it imported properly. So if you have audio files that you're using for students to listen to and then answer a question about, just go take a look, make sure the audio file is there and it functions the way you want it to function. Same thing with videos and images. Most of the time, the media will come over no problem. Sometimes because of the format or the way it was embedded, we might need to re-upload or re-embed that stuff. So take a look, reach out if you need assistance with that. Okay, not much left to cover. We're going to take a brief side trip over to the assignments page to talk about what we might need to do with our grade books, but most of the time that's going to be fine. I'm going to show you a quick place to go to make sure all of your links in your course site are set up properly. And then I'll go over the importing process briefly. So let's go over to assignments to check out our assignment group setup to make sure all of that's done properly. If you don't see any weights, category totals, assignment group totals rather, on this page, and you think you should, first thing you would want to do is click the More button up in the top right, click Assignment Groups Weight, and just make sure that this box, Weight Final Grade Based on Assignment Groups, is ticked. If it's not ticked, you won't be able to set up your gradebook with assignment group weighting. So you just need to enable the gradebook. That should automatically be enabled if you were using the gradebook in OL. But if it's not, that's how you update that. If you need to make any edits, whether that was because something came over a little weird from Moodle to or OL to Canvas, or because you just want to update something because it's a new semester and you want to do your grading a little differently. The way you do that for an assignment group is just click the More button to the right of the assignment group, select Edit, change the name and the percentage of the total grade. If the updating you need to do involves reorganizing grade items, maybe they were put into the wrong category, or maybe you just want them to be in a different category this time, just expand the assignment groups and drag the items to wherever you want them to be. You shouldn't need to make any edits to your grade books, but if you need to, That's how you do it. They should all come over just fine from OL. All right, I'm going to go show you a place where you can double check all of your links in your course site just to make sure they work. This is a quick way to tell if you still have a link pointing to ol.berkeley.edu, for instance. You're going to go to settings down here at the bottom of your course navigation menu. You're going to click validate links in content on the right-hand side, sort of the bottom of this middle menu. And you're going to click start link validation. I already did this because this takes some time when you click the button, and I didn't want you all to wait for it to generate. This says it found 42 broken links. That's because I am using this course site very oddly because it's a training course site. This probably will not happen to you, but it will show you if it's on a page, it'll show you that specific page and which links on that specific page don't work the way Canvas thinks they should. So this is just all of my homepage templates don't point anywhere. So it's just calling those out. But if there were an external link that was unreachable, like a link to a YouTube video that's perhaps no longer there, or a link to OL that students can't get to, it's going to point that out and you'll be able to see where it is so you can go make that fix on your end. That's probably the last thing I would do at the end here. Then when you're ready, you've made all of your updates, you're confident you're good to go teaching in the new semester, you're ready to import. You go to the live course site, the one with the students in it that you want to pull the content into. You've updated in the migrated course sites. You want to move it now into the live course site, whether that's this summer, next fall, or next spring. Go to the live course site, click import existing content up here in the top right on your homepage. You're going to want to select content type. It's always copy a Canvas course. It's never anything else. You're going to select a course from a drop-down menu or search for the course. So you have those two options. Let's just pretend we're bringing it from Joe's test course. Now you can select to bring all of the content. This is just a carbon copy of the other course into this course. That's probably what you're going to do. It's going to bring all of that content over for you, and you can just click the import button to start that process. Optionally, you can tick the adjust events and due dates box and say, okay, this course started on this date and time, change the start date to this date and time. And it's just going to push all of your activity dates, if they were configured, forward to match how far beyond the beginning date they were. That's not going to be perfect, but it might get you closer. If you, in the future, or for some reason this time, only want specific content from a course site, you can just select specific content and then click the import button. It's a little weird because you're clicking the import button before you're selecting the content, but that's the way you have to do it. You'll click import. If I had selected all the content, it would just start the process. But if I'm selecting specific content, then I have to click the select content button and I get to go select all of the things I want. So maybe I want this module and I want these quizzes, and that's it. Then I can import. Or I can just cancel out of here and not do this at all. And that'll always say select content and never do anything until I tell it to do something. All right. I'm going to give you a few resources here in the chat. If I can find my chat menu. There it is. I realize, or we realize, I should say, this is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Everybody has different course content. Everybody adds it in different ways. You're all using different types of things. So you're going to run into different scenarios as you go through. This was just the greatest hits. I encourage you all to take advantage of the office hours appointments that we have available pretty much every day from 1 to 2 p.m. You have to sign up for an appointment for an office hour, but they're available every day, 1 to 2. I just popped the link into the chat. Sign up for an appointment there to talk about anything Canvas related, but especially with any of the stuff we talked about today or any of the things that you encounter in your migrated course content in Canvas. Go take a look at that link to sign up for an office hours appointment. Also, reach out to 2238 at berkeley.edu. Canvas related questions will get to our team more often than not. There's also the Teaching with Canvas at Berkeley course site that you should all be enrolled in currently that mirrors all these live sessions. It has recaps of all the content that we covered in here today in that course site. So please feel free to avail yourself of that, especially if it's after hours and nobody's around. But we're always available to help out with this stuff. So please reach out if you would like some assistance with your migrated content. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop the recording as well.